Hello everyone, welcome to this new stream. Let me just quickly turn the music down a little bit. And let's switch over to the main format. Welcome back to this new stream, everyone. We'll continue working on Lenstracker today. And unlike any other day, I actually have a plan. I just made a small to-do file, and this file will be basically the list of tasks that we should hopefully accomplish during the stream, and then a list of optional tasks that if we have time and if I'm not too tired, we'll probably do as well. Okay? So, if you remember, we do have some models, right? We have the user model that we've used up until now because we've handled everything that has to do with authentication, or at least a good part of that. But we also have a where model, and today we'll be focusing on that one. So we'll do, if we take a look at our to-do list, we'll do basically the whole CRUD, right? So create, read, update, delete. And we'll focus on, so let me just add a small thing right underneath this. That is the input dates. And then we'll also have the start and stop methods, which is optional. Okay. So what I mean by these two methods to create a where instance is you can either input dates, right? So I started on today at 2 o'clock at 2 p.m. and I stopped at today at 4 o'clock at 4 p.m. That's the simplest thing, right? But then we can also create open-ended, right? So I started wearing them now, and then you'll be able to say, okay, I stopped wearing them now, or I stopped wearing them at that time, because maybe you forgot, maybe you're not at home, or whatever else, right? So if we just take a look at our website, this is where we're at, right? This is our landing page, basically. And what I want to do is I want to keep that section there. This will be our landing page, right? So a mini product description and everything else that goes along with that. And this is something that we'll work on later on, because I basically don't want to keep doing CSS on stream for the next 3 streams. What I do want to do is actually get coding and get building a bit of the backend structure of our code, right? So let's go back to our code. And what I want to do is I want to go to my routes. And you'll notice I removed this await auth authenticate simply because it was messing around with some throwing like a too many redirects route, and that sucks. So I just commented it out for now, and we'll actually do a proper thing right after. So what I want to do is I want to create a group. So what is a group? A group is a set of routes that can use all the same middleware, which will be something, and that can also have a prefix. So the actual things that we'll do will be inside /app, right? So if I have a router.get /, for example, this will actually be /app. Why? Because this is just think it's simpler than having to rewrite /up every single time, right? So we can simply do relative URLs. Now, let's remove this for now, and let's look at our middleware. So let's go back to our browser, and in here we should see something middleware. Let's see. So we do have session, maybe support reading and writing data. Okay, no, this is something that we'll use some other point. Routing, route middleware. Dedicated guide on middleware. And let's see. So we probably have it here. Session guard. So we have that, performing login. So this is what we did. Okay, awesome. And then protecting routes. Middleware is registered inside the start kernel. And so we can simply do something like that. Okay, awesome. So let's go back to our code, and then we'll do not that middleware, but .use, and then we'll do middleware .auth. Okay, so we want to make sure that only authenticated users can access the /app router group. And we can test this by saying res.get / and then .send, and we can just have a function that returns okay. I mean, this is unnecessary. Okay, so let's say I go back here and I try to go to /app. I get redirected to my login screen because I'm not authenticated. Then I can sign in using GitHub, verify my account. Apparently it didn't want to do that. Give me just a second. Let's see. Okay, so we are authenticated. Now we got back to our index. And if I go to /app, now I get my okay. So we officially have authenticated routes, which is great. Because if we have authenticated routes, it means that we can access the user inside those routes, and then we can do all kinds of stuff with it. Awesome. Now, let's get rid of that, and let's create a controller. Let's make a controller, and let's call this where. So let's, yeah, I'll do it like that. So we create a where controller, and then I can go and open it up. So we have our where controller, and we'll do, I mean, I guess the first thing we should do is do the create and the store. Okay, so store, create, sorry, will show creation page, and store will actually save info to DB. Okay, so create will basically only get it does only need the view element for the HTTP context. And we can simply return view.render. And let's do something like pages app where create. Something like that. Okay. And what we'll do is I'll go ahead and create resources, use pages, and then we go up where, and then I can just open up this resources, use pages, up, where, and create that edge. So the one thing we want is obviously using our layout, and then we can just end this up. And here we can say create, just to test if everything works fine. And then we can go back to our routes. And so there are two ways we can do this, right? We can specify each element and say router. So basically what we did above, right? So we can do router.get, etc., etc. But we can also use router.resource. And router.resource, we'll just go take a look at the documentation because they'll probably be able to explain it much better than I can. There we go. A controller should only be designed to manage a single resource. So this is what we have, right? So index, create, store, show, edit, update, and destroy. And we'll implement all those methods at some point. And what we can do is we can simply say all the thing that's like /app/where should be handled by the post controller. And you should have something like this, and it will also name the routes so we can use forms and stuff with the automatic route URL generation, right? So, which is cool. So if we do that, so I have a resource that's called where, which will use the where controller. And hopefully this just works. And we can do that. We can check that by saying not ace list routes like this. Yeah. And so we can see that we have all the methods here up where create, where for the store, then show, edit, update, and destroy, which is awesome. Which means, hopefully, at least, if I rerun my dev server and I go back to my navigation, if I go to /app/where/create, then I get the actual create page. And we didn't have to wire all those individual routes in. Now, we will have some issues because if I go to /where, for example, right, we don't have a method index on the where's controller, which is a problem, but not really. We will implement all those methods one by one, right? So whatever. So let's go back here. And let's do the store, because we actually want to store data, right? Remember the model. Let's check back into our model. There we go. So we have a start date, an end date, and then a user ID, but then the user ID is, we'll populate that on the server side, right? So what we can do is, I guess let's do things properly, right? So if we go to the documentation, we can see that we have validation. And the validation uses a library that that the Adonis.js team worked on, which is VineJS, and its goal is to be used with HTML validation, right? So form submission. So we can define objects like this. So it does kind of resemble Zod and Yap and whatever else, right? But it's a bit more integrated and it seems to be faster. So since it's integrated in the framework, then why not use it? So we can do a node ace add vine.js, and we can just run it in here. What the hell did I do? There we go. It will install the package vine.js. So let's do, yeah, sure. Okay, so it's done, finally. And if we go back to the documentation, we can see that we can create a validator. So let's do that. I won't call it post, but I'll call it where. And it creates app validators where.ts. Awesome. Now, I don't believe we need to do anything else in the terminal, so let's just run our server again. And we can open the where validator. There we go. And let's say, let's export a create where validator. And we'll compile, which, as the intelligence says, it precompiles a schema into a validation function. So we can just call create where validator, pass in the data, and then we'll know if the input is right or wrong, basically. I mean, if it's right or wrong, if it matches the validation that we set up. So we have a compile, and inside of that we'll have an object. And the object should only have two things, right? So it should have a start date. Start date, which is vine.date. And an end date, vine.date. And so for now, I don't want them to be optional. Let's say that for now, we just want to store pieces of time that I've already passed, right? So let's say we have just the, we will only send start date, end date, and then we'll do everything else at some point. So now we can go back here, and in the store function, we'll get a new thing from the HTTP context, which is request, because we need to get the data from the request. And there we go. So I just added a request inside the HTTP context. And now what we'll do is we'll get the data from it. So request that all. And then we can get the payload from it. And we can do await create where validator dot validate with data. And for now, let's just console.log payload. And let's also get the response from here. And let's return response.redirect.back. So we want to go back to the place that we used to send the data from. Now, just so I remember, there we go. So the endpoint should be where.store. So if I go back to what the hell am I doing? So I can go back to our create. So inside of here, we'll do a simple thing, right? So we'll do a form with a method of post, and the action will be something that we'll define in just a second. Basically, we'll do the same thing that we did for the login route, right? So if I go and look at our login page, we used this right here, right? The route function from Edge, and just specified the name of the route. So let's do that. There we go. So let's do route, and we'll do, let me get back up a bit, where.store. So let's do where.store, and then we'll have an input of type datetime. Name will be start date, and a second one that will be end date. And we'll also have a button of type submit, create. Right, and we'll do all the styling maybe in the next stream or whatever. So now if I go back to my browser, I do have two inputs. What happens? Is it not datetime? Input types. There we go. Type checkbox colon date. Oh, it's datetime-local. All right, so let's fix that. There we go. There we go. So let's say today at 10 a.m. and it ended today at 11 a.m. And if we create, obviously this didn't change anything, but if we go back to our code, we see that we get an error: invalid or expired CSRF token. What is a CRF token? A CRF token is a cross-site request forgery token. It means that when we generate a form, we add a value, a hidden input basically, that has a value that the server can verify. And it uses that value to verify that the request is a legit request. And it's not someone trying to abuse our server or just trying to DDoS us or whatever else, right? It allows us to avoid invalid data coming in. And to handle that, we need to go back to here and search for CSRF, because we can add this right here, this tag from Edge.js that will generate the hidden field with a value that Adonis basically will handle for us. So let's do that. There we go. Let's just save this, go back here, just fill in some data, some random stuff. And then, so now we can see that we didn't break anything, right? But why didn't it trigger? So let's log the data. Let's see what we got. I'll just resubmit this off camera. So we did get some data back, right? We did get the start date, end date, and then the CSRF token. So everything in there looks fine. So we may have an issue with our validator. Let's see. We did want a start date and date. Is it maybe because it's in the future? Let's try to find that object, start date, end date. Define a datetime value, okay. Do I need to do like string dot? And do we have postal code coordinate to go? Okay. I'll look at it at some point. For now, let's just put in string. Resubmit our stuff. And now we get also the validated data, because as you can see, we have filtered out the CSRF token. So the issue is Vine. I mean, it's not Vine per se, it's just our way of using Vine. So let's go back to the documentation. Can I search for date? Ensure the field's value is a string formatted as a date or datetime per the expected formats. Should be formatted as year, month, date, year, month, day, and then HHMMSS. Okay. So let's do okay, so we can do also these kinds of validation, which is good, but we'll add extra stuff once we actually have the date stuff working, right? So let's see. Find that object, publish that, find that date. Okay. So should be as straightforward as simply doing that. The problem is that T right there, right? Because as it says, it expects a format, year, month, day, and then hour, minutes, and seconds. And if we could take a look at what we got here, we do have the year, the month, and the day. Then we got the T and hour and minute. So let's see if we can get let's see. So I'm on the data.js library, which they use internally to parse that kind of stuff. And so we do want let's see here. Do we have a normal date time? Oh, okay. So I knew there was something, but then it's obsolete. So why is it obsolete? So we do datetime-local. Let's see. Controls UI varies in general from browser to browser. Represent the local date and time, not necessarily the user's local date and time. Okay. The format of the date and time value used by this input type is described in the local date and time strings. Oh, setting time zone. There is a way to set the time zone in a locale. This was available in the datetime input type, but this type is now obsolete and will be removed from the spec. Lack of implementation in browser, concerns over the user interface experience. We provide the time zone in a hidden input type. Okay, whatever. Not required to allow the user to enter time zone alone. You could have a select element. Whatever. Maximum dates and times. Okay. But then so we need to do some transformation before we actually validate it. And can we do, let's see, validate, object compare, so validate. Okay, no, only for accepted. Okay, so at the end of everything, we do want to have a date, but then we can maybe do transform, probably not transform, parse. Define a method to parse the input value. The method is invoked before any validation, and hence you must perform type checking to know the value you are working with. Awesome. Let's try and do that. So we'll have a value. And what if we just return new date of v? And v will type it as a string. Just for fun. So let's go back here. Let's add all our stuff. And it still didn't validate. Argument of type v string date is not assignable. So it takes a callback and should return a Vine date. Okay. So how does parse work? Mutate the output value. Okay, so this is not. Convert the output to camel case. So we do want to parse. Since the parse method is called before the validation cycle, the field's value is unknown, and you must handle all the edge cases to avoid runtime exceptions. Parse method receives the value as the first argument and the field context as the second one. So I guess this is not a string per se, it's unknown, whatever. And we can just cast it as a string in here. So now TypeScript is happy. And if I go back and input another date here, we still don't get anything. But what if I log v? What do we get inside v? So we do get this. Parse. Let's see. Can I parse? Uh, 2024 0401 T1420 with new date. Incomplete because a complete representation should also contain the date. Okay, so whatever. If you try to parse this date as it is, you will receive an invalid date error. So, okay. I was just reading this Stack Overflow thread. And if we go back here, can we do something like this? V plus Z. Because apparently we just need the Z at the end because it's an ISO 8601 spec thing. So let's see if we can give that a try. Let's resubmit the form. And nothing changed. Okay. So let's do const d equals new date of v plus z. And then we'll return d. But before that, we'll just log d. So that we can see what happens. So we do have a date time. So we get that, but then it breaks. Why does it break? Should we just return v plus z, and then they'll have, and then the actual transformers will handle the actual transformation to a date. Let's see. Apparently not. Weird. Weird. So let's say maybe we'll figure something out later on. For now, let's just keep it as a string. So as we were saying, we have our payload. Now we can do const var equals where, right? So we import the model dot create, and then we can say start date is payload dot start date, and end date is payload dot end date. And we can console log where that ID, and we can also await this, otherwise IDs probably won't exist exactly. And here we need to cast this as dates, because otherwise we get a validation error. That. And then we can also get our user, since we know we are authenticated, otherwise we wouldn't be able to actually access the form and stuff. Now we need to get back our auth and then do await of the authenticate. Yeah, authenticate. So we get our user, and then here we can say user ID is user.id. Type date is not assignable to type datetime boolean. Wait, what? Let's just try it out. Again, the page didn't actually change, so I'm just keeping the terminal shown so you can see the logs coming in real time. Okay, invalid date column value. Invalid value for start date, it must be an instance of luxon.datetime. Okay. Okay, I just do datetime from luxon. And would this fix everything? Okay, so it's not something like that. Can it be from ISO? You create a datetime from an ISO 8601 string. Yeah, awesome. So let's do that. And let's also do it like this from ISO. And we probably need to remove, it's not a constructor, but it's probably a static method. Property ID does not exist on type Lucid row. Okay, sure. Let's try this again. Okay, and we got back our ID. So we actually have the create part mostly working. So input dates, I'll give it a cross, saying, okay, yeah, it works. Kind of. I still count this as a win. So why not do the read? Just so we can see our data and test if it actually works the way it is supposed to. So let's go back to our create. So we have pages up where create, right? So sorry, what am I doing? Sorry. We need to create our index method. Think index. And for now, we'll just do view use off from HTTP context. And we'll do, so let's get our user, away of the authenticate. And then can we do user.preload? Can't remember the name of the thing. Oh, there we go. Load aggregate. Probably. Nope. Transaction, enable force update, serialize. Okay, so let's take a look at our Lucid documentation. Did I have? Yeah, there it is. So relationships. And then relationship query. So what's the query? There we go. Okay, user that related posts that query. Okay. So if we go back to our code, then we can say const where's is equal to await user that related where's that query. Yeah. Can also use the relationship to update and delete rated rows, so I will do so will not execute. Okay, so whatever. And let's for now just console log where's, see if everything works fine. Let's see. If I go back to my /where, user.where's expects user ID to exist on where model, but is missing. Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, because I declared it as user ID like this, and it is like this. And now we do get our attributes, right? ID, start date, end date, user ID, etc., etc. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. Let's take this opportunity and actually also change start date and end date, because it should use camel case and then it's converted to snake case as the table name, right? Okay. So let's do something like that, and then we can go back to our controller. And here we can just update start date and end date. Everything should still work fine, nothing is broken, awesome. And then we can just return view.render, and let's do something similar. So pages /app /where's /index, something like that. And we'll go ahead and create that page. So let's do resources, views, pages, up, where index.edge, and that. And then I'll just do something quickly. And let's do X. And then I'll go back here and then Rapuna. Awesome. So let's go to our layout and let's just do a simple table. The table head. And we'll do a row with THE and TH start, TH and Then we'll close this table row, and we'll have table body, and we'll do a small loop that you cannot see because I forgot to switch to view. So, quick recap. We created a index.h page inside our inside our views pages app where. So we created index.h, and inside the index.h we're using a layout, and then we have a table with a table head, table body, and now we're going to create a for each loop to actually generate all the table rows according to the number of our elements. And we can do that using the each syntax and adding the each loop at some point. The one thing we can also do is go and check. So we go edge loops. There we go. So we do each element in the array. So we can do each where in wheres, and we'll have a table row, and inside the table row we'll have where id, and we'll have a where.start date, and a where.end date. And the one thing we also need to do is actually pass in data here. So we can do, we can render, then we can pass some arguments, right? So our where's data that I set up in the template, this is where we define what that value is. So for now it's where's because it's an array. Awesome. So now if I go back to my browser, cannot resolve views pages app where's index.h. That's weird. Did I forget to save it? Probably. Resources, views, pages, up. Oh, it's where and not where's. Okay, so let's go and fix that. There we go. If we go back to the navigation, we have our table, so we can actually read. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we can go in here and tick this box right here. Awesome. And I'd say let's take a small break, about 5 to 10 minutes. Then we'll come back and do our delete, which is easier, and then our update. And in the meantime, I'll try to see if I can figure out what the hell happened with Vine's date validator. Okay? See you guys in a bit. And we're back. Sorry it took a bit longer than the 5 minutes I promised. I was trying to work out how to actually do the validation stuff, but whatever. I didn't figure it out for now. I'll definitely figure it out for the next stream and then tell you how. Let's go back to our stuff. So we managed to have our create stuff, right? Awesome. So now what we can do is we can work on the delete stuff. Okay. So let's go back to our editor, and then let's do another time the list routes and see that we call update where, so we call destroy. So let's do async destroy. And what we'll take is we'll take params and off. Right, so we want to get our user await auth.authenticate, and what we'll also want to get is the instance is await where the get, or I guess find, and the ID is params.id. Now, why am I saying that? Because if we take a look here, we see that for the delete method, we have a parameter called ID. Simple as that. So we have our user, we have our instance. Let's just do a quick check if instance.userid is not user.id. Then we can throw new error invalid where ID. And then we can do await instance.delete. And then we can return response. So we also need response. We'll do response.redirect.back. And we'll add response in here. This does not exist. Let's see. What the hell? What I wanted to do was to go to my user model, and it exists. It's called ID. Whatever. TypeScript, that does what TypeScripts want. So let's go back here and let's add another table cell, and let's call this action. And we'll do inside of here, we'll have a form with a method of we cannot do delete requests in forms, right? So that's an issue, but we can fix that. I'll show you how. So then we can do action, and again, so it's route of where dot destroy, and the only argument that we need to pass is where.id. And inside of here, we'll have close the data here, and we'll add a button of type submit delete. I'll close the button. And let's rerun our server. And now we have a delete button. So if I click on this, cannot post appware1. And that's fine, right? Because it's set up to listen on a delete event, and we just sent a post, so obviously it doesn't match. So let's see. HTTP controllers, security SSR. Let's see. Methods and array of HTTP methods to protect. Okay, CSP policy. Free green street transport security, X-frame protection. Where was this? Let's see. Right, approach validation. Form method spoofing. There we go. So the form method and HTML form can only be set to get or post, making it impossible to leverage RESTful HTTP methods. So we can add a underscore method query string for method spoofing to work. You must set the form action to post. And then we can do add this action right here and method delete. And then we need to go into config app.ts and then allow method spoofing. So let's do that. App.ts, allow method spoofing to true. And once we have done that, then we can go back here and do our action. So it's our route, and then underscore method equals delete. So let's go look at a wrong button. So let's go look at this. And if we go to our page here and we take a look, app_where1 and method delete. So this hopefully should work. Delete. Okay. What the hell? Let's see, did I forget to save something? No, I didn't. Okay. So let's take a look here. CRUD, delete. Like the update operation, you first fetch it from the database and delete the row, for example, await user find or fail, and then await user.delete. Okay. So let's do find or fail. And then we can console log error invalid with user does not match where. I'll still like to console log instance, and this will always be defined, otherwise it will have already failed. We can remove this console log, and let's see, go back here. Okay, so if we load this, then everything works, and if I delete this, there we go. remember how I told you we need to protect our routes and stuff? Invalid or expired CSRF token. So let's do that. Let's add our CSRF field like this. And if I go back here and I click delete, now it actually gets deleted. Awesome. So if we go back to our goals, then delete is done. Awesome. Now we need to handle the update. We need to handle the update, but do we really need to? I guess yes, because you could have made a mistake when entering the fields. So either you delete it or you can fix it. So let's say we're feeling quite good and we want to allow our users to fix stuff. So let's go back to our controller and say, what do we need as methods? We need show, so we need edit and update. So let's do edit. And for the edit, we need to get the view off and params from HTTP context. So at the end of everything, we want to return a view for pages, up, where, and edit. So let's get the user. And then we can get the where dot find or fail. And then we want to have params.id. And again, if user.id is not the same as where.userid, then we want to throw a new error, invalid data. Otherwise, we want to return this, and we'll pass in the where. And that should be enough for the logic here. Let's go ahead and create our resources, pages, resources, views, pages, up, where, and edit.edge. So I'll have my layout, and let's just do edit. Because now we can go back to our index page and have another link for route where.edit, and again we'll pass the where ID and just edit like this is fine. So if I go back to my navigation, we can go ahead and create a new element, something like this. And if we go back to our where, we can go and edit. Oh, so now we just need to populate the stuff, right? So let's go back to our edit, and we'll have a form. And the method will be post. And the action will be what we did before for the delete, basically. So we'll do route where that's dot update, I believe. Let's check. Let's check. Yeah. Where that update. And then we'll have a method of put. Inside of here, we'll have an input name. Let's have start date. So let's have start date, type datetime-local, and the value. We probably need to transform this before we send it over, but just so we can be certain, let's just try it once. So let's do where dot start date. Right, and then we can duplicate this, and here say it's end date, and same here, it's end date. And I still forgot to switch over to this, but we just had something like this, right? We basically did the same thing that we did for the delete. So we have a form with a method. We added the underscore method query string to use method spoofing, and then we just have the two inputs that get the value from the parameter that we passed into the route, into the render function, and we should see if it works. So the value is not getting computed right, probably because it's a Luxon object. Okay, no, it gets. It reads right, but we need to. Okay, so we probably need to remove that. So the datetime-local thing only works up to seconds, right? So the 2024-0401 T16, 24, 00 is fine, and then we have that dot 000 dot 0 plus 00 colon 00. That's what we need to remove. So what we can do, hopefully, let's try it with one, is that we can call split on dot 000 and just take the first element. Start date dot split is not a function. That's too bad. So we do need to handle that. We do need to handle that in the controller, which is fine. It just sucks. So we'll have where, and where will take everything that where has, except start date will be where that start date dot to ISO. I guess. Yeah, let's try to ISO. And date will be the same, right? So it will be where that send date dot to ISO. What's the problem? Oh, I didn't close this. Now everyone should be happy. And if you go back here and reload, why is it missing that parameter? We did everything where has. I mean, I guess I could just do where.id. And now we still don't have the values because value now is undefined. Value is undefined because it's not start date like that, it's start date like this and end date like this. And if I go back, so to ISO is not the right call. Laxon, datetime-local format. Let's see if we find something. So datetime. Let's see. To SQL time, to SQL date, to ISO time, to ISO. Let's see, to ISO. Oh, okay, so we can options, format, and we can say format, and then we can say basic, and hopefully that should help. Hopefully that should help. Okay, no, so datetime.now.ISO format basic. That breaks stuff. Why? So let's do to ISO. Let's try some stuff out until it works. Right, so we can say suppress seconds, suppress milliseconds. And that's the whole issue. Still no. Still no. So how about if I also suppress the seconds? What is happening here? So to HTTP to local to format. Okay, I guess let's format it like this. So to format, and the format should be year. If I go take a look at the datetime-local spec, so let's see. Okay, so it's this. And let's just paste it in here. This is the format that they want. So if I go back and reload, god damn it. But why is that happening? So a start date, where start date at to format. To formats. Is it maybe something like this? Right? So it's a string representation of this datetime format according to the specified format. For more, so for table of tokens interpretation, see here. Okay. So let's go back to Luxon and see. I mean, there is a toString method, but that's probably not the one we want. So do we have to format? To format. Okay. Data for more flexible formatting to ever for a table of tokens interpretation. See here. Okay. So what do we have? So 4 to 6 digits here. Okay, so that one is fine. And then we have month as a pattern number. So that's fine. Okay. And should we try with LL instead of MM? And then, okay. Day of the week. What the hell? Okay, there we go. Day of the week is a number from 1 to 7. No. Day of the month. Okay. Padded to 2, so it's 2 D's underscore. And then MM is fine because it's made it's padded to 2, and then and then let's try with 2 capital H's. And HH. So for lowercase i's, 2 uppercase L's, 2 lowercase d, T, 2 uppercase H, and 2 lowercase m. Right? Let's see. Can we get the F in value? So it's better, right? We have a value that is 2024 or 401, but we don't, the T doesn't show. So why? Oh, okay, so we need to put it, since it's a character that does not need to be interpreted, right? So we can do T like this. And finally, it works. Okay. Okay. So now I just need to copy this. And just paste it in. And hopefully we should have both of our dates. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So now we have our dates. Once we have our dates, we need to actually be able to save them, right? So we need to actually do the thing that we need the edit page for. So if I go back to edit, then we need a button of type submit. Submit, for example, that let's add, before I forget, our CSRF field, right? And then this page should be done, hopefully. And in our controller, we need to do a update and we need to get a auth, params, request, and response. So we'll get the user, and I still need to type this HTTP context. Let's get the where. Basically, we need this section right here. Here, yank all of this and put it inside here. So that section right there is fine. Then we'll get our data. Request at all. Let's go to our validators and let's do a export const update where validator, which is again vine.compile. Basically it's this section right here. Can yank this. And go up here, yank all of this, get down and put everything here. Can go back to our controller and say const payload equals await update where validator with data. Then we can do we can just do something like this, right? Start date is equal to payload to datetime that from ISO payload at start date. All right. Payload that start date. This where that end date is datetime from ISO payload that end date. This expression is not callable. Why? What did I do wrong? Vine.compile. Okay. How about our imports? Update where validator. Okay, whatever. So now we can await where that save, and we can return redirect response dot redirect dot to route, and we'll do where that index. nothing is broken. And now if we go back to our thing here, and let's say I want this to end at 6 instead of at 5, submit. Update where validator is not a function. Then, okay, why is it not a function? Let's see, update where validator. Find that compile, find that object. And I go to the controller. This is what we did above, right? In the store, create, oh, yeah. Validate data. Now this should work. And here, and I saw something I shouldn't have probably. Is my method is post. So post. Why was it a get request? Whatever. Let's try. Reload this. I'll say this is 624 instead of 524. It works, and now my end is at 1824. Awesome. So update works. Update works. And we just need to handle this kind of stuff. But this would require doing a bit more validation work. And I'd rather I'd rather just fix that Vine problem that we have with the dates. And once we fix that, then we can go on and do the rest of the validation things, right? So we can do some, we can put them as optional, and then we can handle all that, all the cases where we only just have the start date. But then if we have if we only have an end date, then that's a problem, but maybe not. So we'll do all of that in another stream. Okay, I think we've done quite a bit. So yeah, let's just do a next stream, right? And we'll do, well, yank all of this. And we'll do that. Next stream. And this is still optional, right? And then we'll see what else we can do in the next stream. We'll probably do a bit more styling because well, this is not that nice to look at, right? So we'll do a bit of styling for the table and stuff. And I think this is kind of it. So I guess I'll wish you all a good, yeah, my phone just disconnected. No, don't worry about it. And it just reconnected and, well, shut up. Sorry about that. I wish you all a good evening, and I'll see you all next time.